The city never truly sleeps. Even after midnight, the glow of streetlights dances across empty roads, and the distant hum of passing cars lingers like a whisper. On one quiet September evening, 28-year-old Daniel Reeves drove through those same streets, unaware that each turn he took was leading him closer to his final moment. Daniel wasn't anyone famous or powerful. He was a quiet, creative soul, a graphic designer who spent most of his days working from home, sketching ideas and meeting deadlines. To those who knew him, Daniel was gentle, thoughtful, and almost too kind for a world that often rewarded the opposite. That night, he had been at a friend's house watching a football game. Nothing unusual, just laughter, snacks, and talk about work and life. When the game ended, he grabbed his jacket, said goodbye, and stepped into the cool night air. He had no idea that his small, ordinary walk to the car would be the last peaceful thing he'd ever do. At the same time, across the city, another story was unfolding, one filled with anger, revenge, and blood. Police had spent weeks chasing Terry Ghost Malone, a violent gang member wanted for a recent shooting that left one man in critical condition. His name was whispered in alleyways and bars, his photo printed on wanted posters that most ignored. The streets were tense, the air thick with talk of retaliation. But vengeance often moves faster than justice. 3 men, friends of Terry's last victim, decided that waiting for the police wasn't enough. They wanted payback, and they wanted it now. Rumor had it that Terry drove a silver sedan, wore a black hoodie, and often circled through the Brooklyn Avenue area late at night. It was a vague description, far too vague, but anger doesn't care about details. And as fate would have it, Daniel Reeves drove a silver car. That night, he was wearing a black hoodie. The rain began to fall lightly as Daniel turned onto Brooklyn Avenue, his headlights cutting through the mist. He was probably humming softly to himself, thinking about getting home and finishing that design project waiting on his laptop. He didn't notice the dark sedan that pulled out a few blocks behind him, matching his every move. Inside that car sat 3 men, their minds clouded by rage. They followed Daniel for nearly 10 minutes, silent, focused, convinced they were about to make things right. At a red light, Daniel stopped. The street was empty. The men pulled up beside him. One of them rolled down his window, and in the next few seconds, a single gunshot shattered the night. Daniel's car drifted onto the sidewalk and came to a slow stop. The engine kept running. The wipers brushed away rain that no longer mattered. By morning, the city buzzed with confusion. Another shooting, another tragedy. But this one felt different. Daniel wasn't a gang member. He wasn't part of any feud. He was an innocent man whose only mistake was existing in the wrong place at the wrong time. Detectives quickly gathered security footage from nearby stores. Within hours, they had their suspects. The silver sedan had been caught on camera, following Daniel through 3 intersections. When police arrested the men later that day, they didn't resist. In fact, one of them broke down immediately. He said just 4 words that chilled the entire room. "We thought it was him." The investigation moved quickly after that. The suspects confessed, explaining how they mistook Daniel for Terry Malone. Their anger, they said, blinded them. They thought they were delivering justice, but all they delivered was heartbreak. Daniel's family learned of his death the next morning. His mother collapsed when officers came to the door. She couldn't understand how her son, a man who never even swore in frustration, could be gunned down like a criminal. The community wept with her. Candles lined the sidewalk where his car had stopped. People brought flowers, photos, and handwritten notes. One message read, "He was one of us. He didn't deserve this." In the weeks that followed, the story spread far beyond the city. News anchors called it a tragedy born from vengeance. Editorials spoke about how hate clouds reason. But for Daniel's family, none of that mattered. No headline, no verdict could ever bring him back. When the trial began, the courtroom was packed. The 3 men sat silently, heads bowed, as Daniel's mother described her son. How he loved sketching cartoons, how he volunteered at a local shelter, how he was supposed to visit her that weekend. Every word she spoke cut through the silence like a knife. The verdict was inevitable. The men were found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. But even as they were led away, there was no sense of victory, only sorrow. They had avenged no one. They had only created more pain. Months later, a mural appeared on the wall near Brooklyn Avenue, a portrait of Daniel, smiling softly, surrounded by shades of blue and gold. At the bottom were 4 simple words: innocent, loved, never forgotten. People still stop there to this day, some to pray, others just to think. It has become a silent reminder of what happens when rage replaces reason, when assumptions replace truth. Because the tragedy of Daniel Reeves isn't just about a single mistake. It's about how quickly lives can unravel when judgment takes the place of understanding. It's about how vengeance never heals. It only multiplies the hurt. And perhaps most painfully, it's about how innocence is sometimes the easiest thing to destroy. Daniel's story lingers like a scar on the city, one that time won't erase. His family continues to speak out, urging others to think before they act, to value life before anger consumes it. They say that if sharing his story saves even one person from repeating the same mistake, then maybe, just maybe, his death won't have been in vain. The lesson is clear. 1 second of violence can undo a lifetime of kindness. And sometimes, justice isn't about punishment, it's about remembering. If Daniel's story moved you, take a moment to reflect on the power of choice. And if you want to hear more stories that reveal the human side of true crime, stories that remind us how fragile life can be, subscribe, like, and join our community for more eye-opening tales. Because sometimes, the scariest stories aren't about monsters at all. They're about people and the mistakes that change everything.